Jenna, what's up? How are you?
What's up? How are you?
Good. It's good to see you. Good to
Yeah.
officially talk to you over the internet. You know,
Right? It's
yeah,
like social media, you feel like you just know people, and I have so
right.
many people that I just know that I've known forever, but not actually, like, not really in person, but it's funny
Yeah, I
because
don't know
social
that you and
media
I
is
have actually sat down and had a conversation longer than 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm glad that you're able to come on and we can chit chat. And
yeah, this is gonna be
um,
fun.
I, yeah, I was thinking the other day, like how long have I known Jenna via the social web or whatever, right? Like how long have we known each other? And I was going back in it was probably 2012, 2013. I was
Jeez.
working out doing CrossFit in my garage, and I was like, you know what, I need to find a gym to go to and maybe drop in somewhere. And there was a gym right around the corner from my house. It was called, I believe at the time it was PR Fitness,
Mhm.
and that might have changed into CrossFit Brownsburg, or CrossFit
It did,
Brownsburg turned
yeah.
into PR Fitness. But anyway, I believe that you were a member there. And I dropped in a couple times there, and then I went back and I was working out at my house. And so anyway, is that kind of how you got started? Is that where you were at?
Yeah, it is. So I was a multi-sport athlete in high school, and then, like, I didn't go play in college, and so once college hit, like and then you have this, like, abrupt stop to playing sports, you just gain a whole bunch of weight. So
Right.
I was, like, in this really kinda crappy spot I found, when I was, like, 20, 21. I was just really unhappy, and, um, my brother actually, he he graduated from Purdue, and then he joined the Army, and so when he came home, um like getting ready to go to basic training, he had started doing CrossFit to kind of train for basic training. And so he's the one who found PR Fitness first and was like, "Hey, I'm going to this gym. You should come with me." So I went with him one time. And then, like, after one class, I was just absolutely hooked. So that's kind of how
Right.
I ended up there. So that was 2011, I think. And it wasn't long after that. I mean, I was probably a member for maybe 6 to 8 months or so. And I was like, I am so passionate about this. Like, I need to make this part of what I do. And so that's when I started. I got my L1 and started coaching not long after.
Yeah,
So probably within a year.
that's
So
awesome. And
mm,
then from there, you were doing some competitions. I mean, you jumped full force
I did.
doing some competitions early on,
I did. I loved it
and you're
because
like,
it was
I'm a
like,
competitive athlete now.
exactly. Well, no,
Or
it's
or
like,
again,
yeah.
right?
That's what it did, is it was sport for me, so it, like, brought back that, like, competitive nature that I had been missing since playing sports, growing up, and I was like, "Gosh, this it's so perfect because 'cause I'm a very, very competitive person."
Right.
So it was nice for
How
me
long
to do that.
how long after you got your level 1 did you go and you're like, "I'm going all in, I'm getting my level 2"? Because you got your level 2
Oh
now,
gosh.
right?
Yes, it was a couple years, actually, so I had my level
Okay.
1, um, let's see, I got that in 2011 or 2012, and so I was still at CrossFit Brownsburg, and then it ended up closing a couple years later. And so once that gym closed, I made my way over to 317. And it wasn't until
Right.
after I was coaching at 317 that I got my L2. So it was a
Oh,
couple
okay.
years. Yeah,
Right. Cool. Yeah, because I remember back in 2015, I believe, you did our Midwest showcase that we
I
had
did.
at
So
the
funny.
fairgrounds.
Yeah, funny story about that. I did that. I did that competition. I was 3 months postpartum doing that
Oh, yeah.
competition. Like, I was like, nothing can stop me. Looking back,
Right.
I'm like, that was probably not super smart because I had a C-section, and it was like I just jumped back in, head first, and did not properly, like, rehab the way I probably should have. But man, that's the thing, is I've always wanted to be like, I just want to prove that I can still hang, So I had a
Right.
baby 3 months prior. I jump in and do this competition, and I will never forget, at the very end of that, we were in the finals, and there was like 10 rope climbs, and it
I
absolutely
remember that.
destroyed me. It was like,
Yeah.
I couldn't do them. I literally just couldn't do them. And so, I don't know. It was a fun time though, but yeah.
Yeah, so back then you were still at that was before CrossFit Brownsburg had closed, correct? Or had you just moved over?
No, yeah, that was
That was
before they closed.
2015.
Yep, that was still at
Yep.
CrossFit Brownsburg. Yeah.
And then that was your first kid?
Yes. So
Yeah, so you were like, I can do anything now.
yes, pretty much. It's
Yeah.
like I don't like to be slowed down by things, and even if it's not the smartest thing to do, but so I had a baby in 2015 and I was like, I have to get back to where I was, so I just got right back into it, started training again. Um and then not long, I mean, it was probably within a year. She had just turned 1. I found out I was pregnant with my second one. That one was
Oh, wow.
yeah, that was a surprise. So I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh my gosh," like, I was just getting to the spot where I was, like, ready to go back into, like, competing again, and then I found I was pregnant again. Um, but then by that time, I was at 317.
Oh, nice.
That was, like, right when all that started happening, so I was at 317 at that point, but,
And then
so then
how
I
long
had to
after that did you have your 3rd kid?
so I had Hunter in 2017. Not long after that, 317 closed. So then and we moved, um, I mean, we moved like 35 minutes away. So at that point, I had left the gym a little bit before they actually closed just because with my full-time job and with 2 kids and living 30, 40 minutes away, it just didn't work. And so I started working
Right.
out at home, in my barn, and that's when I started kind of converting my barn into my gym. And
That's like the thing to do if you live out in the middle of nowhere.
there's
That's
no
what
gyms
people
out
do.
here.
They're like, you know what? I just have to build my barn."
It's
Like,
literally
it's
there's no gyms out here. So,
right.
yeah. So, I had baby number 3 in 2020. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, I got pregnant in 2020. I had him in 21. So,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
he
cool.
was a COVID baby.
Right. And
Yeah.
so then from 2021 until now, you're just, full-time mom,
Yeah, so
working out.
I full-time now, I'm a nutrition coach. So, the way it
Right.
all kinda worked out is once I got pregnant with my 3rd, I had to stop working because that was, like, right at the time everything went online. Like, my daughter went to e-learning, my work shut down. I used to be an oral surgery assistant, so I worked in surgery, and,
Okay.
COVID happened, things got weird within the medical field. They shut down. My boss that I was working for, retired during that time, like the surgeon that I was working for. So it was like everything kind of came to a head at the same time and kind of forced me out of that job. Like I didn't necessarily plan to stop working full time, but because of all the circumstances, it just kind of forced me out. And so I found myself, that was like end of 2021. I was miserably pregnant. Hayden's pregnancy was horrible. I was so sick. And then my kids were home on e-learning. All of a sudden I didn't have a job. I wasn't coaching anymore. So like I had this massive like loss of identity. And so I was
Right.
like really, really struggling at that time. And so I let's see, he was born February of 21. And so right about that time, I was like, I have got to find something that I can do online. Like coaching is what brings me joy. I absolutely love coaching. So I started just like brainstorming. Maybe I can figure out how to coach online and still stay connected to that. That is what, that's what I'm super passionate about. So that's how I came across First Form, was when I
Right.
was 9 months pregnant with Hayden. And I joined First Form and started nutrition coaching, back
And
then. And
how's that work? What's that process look like? At least back then, you're like, "You know what? I'm taking these shakes, I'm taking these supplements. I'm nutrition coaching." I mean, what's that look like?
yeah, so it's like I had, I mean, a bit of a background in nutrition, but not a ton. So
Yeah.
what's really cool about with like First Form is there's a ton of training that they give you. They give you all kinds of resources. And then I went on to get more like nutrition training and got certified and whatnot.
Right.
So I was able to, like, right when I first joined them, I became an advisor in the First Form app. And so by doing that, I started challenges. So I would get people into my challenges and I would take them through 8-week challenges, set their macros for them. Um, they check in with me weekly. I kind of guide them just on all the things. It's not just macros, but like all things mindset and fitness and just every single part of wellness. I was able to get involved in these people's lives. And that was right about like once I got immersed into that, I was like, this is truly what I'm passionate about. Like CrossFit coaching is great. I loved being able to help people in that way, but like being able to help them with nutrition, like truly, truly gets into the nitty gritty and changes people's lives. And so that's why, um, man, I just dove in headfirst to that. And
That's awesome.
yeah, it's been really, really great. So I do
That's
that actually
awesome.
full time now. Like, yeah, I have 3 kids obviously, but I do that
Yeah.
completely full time. Um,
And
and
so what's that look like? Is that like a sponsored trainer? Is that what it's called?
yeah, so
I don't
I
even know. I don't know how it works.
yeah, so I earned that title. When I first started, I was just an advisor. It's called being a legionnaire within their program, um, so I worked my way up. I was nominated and chosen to be a sponsored trainer after about a year in the program, just through um, the results that I've gotten people,
That's
and
awesome.
how I've helped people change their lives and all of that. So I've been a sponsored trainer with them for a couple years now,
That's
which is
awesome.
yeah.
So when someone comes in and works with you, you pretty much you set their macros,
Hmm.
you guide them through, you
Yep, and
know.
so, like, the thing is, I run 8-week challenges, but the 8 weeks are more so to, like it's really just, like, a starting point for people to just get the hang of all of, like, the healthy habits that are gonna help them adopt this new lifestyle. So, it's not
Yeah.
like 8 weeks and you're done. Like, when people sign up to work with me, they can be with me for as long as they want. Like, there's no contract, like, I am literally just here to help them. So, I've got clients that have been with me for 3 years. And it's more so
Yep.
like we've helped them reach their goals. They're doing fantastic, but they love the accountability. And at this point, we have just such a great relationship that like it's more of just a check-in. Hey, how you doing? Like, let's keep you on track and make sure you're moving in the right direction, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
um, I set their macros and then they'll be logging their food, their workouts. They can do whatever they want for working out. I don't care what they do as long as they're strength or resistance training. Um, just because we want muscle, right? Like that's going
Yeah,
to be
absolutely.
muscle is what muscle is gold. So that's kind of the goal for everybody. And yeah,
What do you do most of the time for your training now? Now
so
that you're in the barn, you've got your, busy lifestyle, you're a mom, you've got a lot going on, and you've got, an hour in the gym. What's that look
yeah,
like for you?
yeah. So I've bounced around a little bit. So I mean I'm a CrossFitter at heart. I think I
Right.
always will be. So I was doing that quite a bit. And it's if you've never done CrossFit by yourself, it's very difficult. Like when you go from a gym atmosphere to going to working out at home by yourself, it's a hard transition. But like when I got to that point, I was like, this is literally my only option. So I've got to either figure this out or just like throw in the towel. And that's not an option either. So um figuring out how to work out, do CrossFit on your own is difficult because I mean, you push yourself. You know what I mean? And there's something about being in that
Yeah.
that class atmosphere to where you're like, I got to beat the person next to me. Well, when you're at home, you don't have anybody next to you to beat. So I would
Yeah,
literally I would imagine
every
people in
time
my
I'm at
head.
home, I find myself bench pressing, back squatting, maybe I'll hop on a rower and I'll go for a jog.
Yeah.
But the intensity, I just never find myself going into that type of, you know,
The pain
dark,
kick.
intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just not doing it at home. So I'll always have to go to the gym for that. But yeah, you're
Yeah.
out in the middle of nowhere just crushing it by yourself,
It's
hoping
hard. I
that.
mean, it's hard, but it's like once you can kind of figure that out, now I prefer it. I love working out by myself.
Oh,
But
really?
oh yeah. So I did CrossFit for a while and just this past year, probably in January, I switched over more to just like traditional lifting and I've given CrossFit a bit of a break. Um just because my goals have changed a little bit. It's like I think that that's what's so cool about just the journey is that like your goals can shift, you can shift your training, like training can shift based off of what your goals are and your nutrition can change, you can change your body composition, like you can literally set whatever goal you want and go head first at it. So like in January, I decided to step back a little bit from CrossFit and kind of I laid off the high intensity stuff and just went more into just traditional lifting. And I really loved it. I never used to think that I would like it. I mean, like when you're in CrossFit,
Right.
I used to make fun of it. I'd be like,
Right.
I always thought it was a joke, but now I'm like, man, I can see why people really enjoy this. And I've been able to change my physique a ton over the last year and whatnot. But I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say I was like starting to get the itch again to like get back into more intense training. So
Yeah, I always find myself, I have to do one, 1 to 2, I call them Globo gym days. I feel like I
Mhm.
have to at least do it 1 to 2 days a week just to feel good.
Mhm.
And then but yeah, I crave that intensity.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, let's like dive into some nutrition things, you
Yeah.
know. Where do you find that people struggle the most when they walk in? Obviously, I've got people that come in the gym and we have discussions and things like that, but where do you find that, when someone first comes to you, like what do they struggle with the most? Because it's what I find is it's not like everyone knows that chicken's good and pizza's bad in you know what I mean, in like a
Yeah.
roundabout way. Like everyone knows, if they're looking at their plate, this extreme big bowl of fettuccine alfredo probably isn't the best, right?
Right.
And chicken is probably better, but it goes much deeper than that. And so, when you first start talking to someone, what do you find they're struggling with the most that first week?
So I would say, I mean, I've had lots and lots and lots of people, and I think there's just kind of a combination of a lot of people just straight up don't know what to eat, but maybe not necessarily that, but also how much of what to eat. Because that's a huge thing. And that's something that I struggled with forever. Is because I had the cleanest diet in the world, but I could not get freaking results for years and years and years because I was eating quote paleo. And like, if it's
Right.
paleo, you can have as much of it as you want. So
Right.
I have people who are like, I eat healthy, but I just can't get results. So there's a lot of people who are just like struggle with how much of what to eat. And then there's also a lot of people who just it's a mental thing. So they really, really struggle with the consistency and most people are all or nothing people. So it's like they think that they either have to jump in and do a complete overhaul of their whole life that's not sustainable in the very beginning because it's like all new and it's like you're trying to revamp your whole diet and your workout regimen and all the things, then it's like, whoa, this is too much, and they completely fall off. That
Right.
happens a lot, a lot, a lot. So for people, my approach is, first of all, I just kind of meet them where they're at. So depending on what their background is, what they're coming from, if people are coming from that very all or nothing mindset, it's like you need to understand that this is a journey and there is literally no finish line. So we are in no hurry to completely change everything all at once. So like let's break this down to one habit at a time and like let's just focus on this week. And for a lot of times people it's just getting the hang of logging their food. Because that's something new for a lot of people, especially if you've never tracked your macros before, if you've never logged your food, like it's a habit that you have to kind of adopt and figure out and learn how to weigh out and measure your food. Like that's a whole thing. And so we just go one habit at a time. So that's usually where I have people start. Um, and then the second thing is focusing on protein. So protein is absolutely key to everything. My
Right.
clients probably just like get so sick of me saying the word protein because it's like protein. So this is the difference. A lot of people don't understand that there's a difference between weight loss and fat loss. Okay. So if you have weight loss, it's all going to come down to calories in versus calories out. I mean, most people know that, like, in order to lose weight, you need to be eating less than what you're burning. So being in a calorie deficit, that will get the scale moving. However, when that happens, your body will also drop muscle, probably more so than body fat. Okay. So as your body's dropping muscle is what holds on, like that's where your metabolism is. So as your body's dropping
Absolutely.
muscle, your metabolism's going with it. So as these people are continue to, they might be losing weight, they're going to have to keep eating less and less and less to continue to see results. And then at that, maybe their goal body weight was 140 and they hit 140, but they don't really like the way that their body looks. They don't have that like super healthy looking toned physique that they were after. And the reason for that is because they lost all their muscle. Okay. So the
Yeah.
key is you want to be in a calorie deficit, but also getting adequate amount of protein per day. So protein is going to be what helps your body hold on to lean muscle tissue while simultaneously losing specifically body fat. So this kind of, you almost have to like chisel out, your muscle tissue as your body's dropping body fat. And the way that you do that, like I said, is by getting adequate protein every day.
Absolutely. So if someone's listening right now and they're thinking, okay, she's telling me adequate protein, I'm logging my food. What's that number look like?
So
What's
for,
what do you tell people?
yeah.
If I were to call you up today, we live 1,000 miles away, you know, Zach, start with this. Like what would
Yep.
you? You know,
So my
where do
typical
we
rule
start?
of thumb, yeah, is going to be 1 gram per pound of goal or ideal body weight. Okay. So if my goal body weight is 150 pounds, then I want to start aiming for 150 grams of protein a day. And that's a very general rule of thumb. That's a great place to start, especially if you're not ready to just like go all in. It's like, I just want to start eating more protein. Honestly, for most people, is if they just were to increase their protein intake, they would
Yeah.
start to see results for most
Yeah.
people.
And I think one of the key things you just said was your goal body weight. I think a lot of people, when they first start, they might do a quick Google search and say, oh,
Mhm.
well, I need to eat 1 gram per body weight, right? And they're 200
Yeah.
pounds, but maybe they want to get to 150. So
Yeah.
now they're like, oh, I'm not hitting my protein because it needs to be at, 200.
Yeah.
But I think the key that a lot of people need to understand is it's your goal body weight. And that could change, but
Yep. Well, and like as
um,
you'll I mean, and two, like as you go through as we go through the journey, there's a lot of times where I will increase people's protein just kind of depending because there is an aspect to where um
I love it. I love it.
did you just hear what he said?
No,
Well, thank God. Okay. So there's times where I will increase protein for people just because there's a thermic effect of food. So a lot of times,
yeah,
like for instance, if somebody's in a deficit, they're starting to get kind of hungry. That's normal. Like a little bit of hunger is normal in a deficit. Think about it. You're eating less than what your body's burning. So by getting in more protein, protein is very satiating. It's going to help you have more calories, but because of the thermic effect of food, your body actually burns more calories just digesting protein. So it's almost a way to kind of like trick your body into being in more of a deficit by adding in more calories. It's kind of a cool
right.
concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that is. So now I'm getting enough protein. Now what? You know,
yeah.
now what are we doing? I'm tracking my food for a couple weeks. Now my friends want to go out on the weekend. You know, I've been good for 2 weeks. They want to go to 8 Second Saloon. What's that? You know what I mean? What's that night look like?
Yeah, yeah.
You
This is
know,
where a
it's
lot of
like, go
yeah.
ahead.
This is where a lot of people struggle. Just because it's like, okay, I'm learning how to have this great routine. I'm learning these great habits, but what about life? Like
Right.
what am I supposed to do when I go out or go out to eat or whatever? Like this is where people get into that all or nothing. Oh my God. Can you pause for just a second?
Pause. Time out.
Pause. Hey, stop.
All right.
So
We're resuming now. We're good.
so a lot of people are like, how do I do life while I have this new routine? And there's a few different ways that I have people kind of approach this. And it all kind of comes down to, first of all, how dialed in are you towards your goal? Because here's the deal. If you have a very specific goal and you are like, listen, I am going to lose 30 pounds this year. I have these very specific goals and nothing is going to throw me off track. There are ways to stay dialed in. You eat before you go out, or you say no to alcohol, you have a mocktail instead. Like there's all kinds of different ways that you can stay dialed in. Okay. Because the more dialed in you are, and the more consistent you are, the better results you're going to get quicker. But let's say we're like, okay, that's my overall goal. I still want to be able to enjoy life, that sort of thing. Cool. You can still enjoy yourself, quote, on the weekends. Just know it's going to take you a little bit longer to get to that goal. So it's like,
Right.
you kind of let people make that decision themselves as far as like what they want to do. Like for me, you have to understand that when you have a goal, it requires some sacrifice. Like, and if you can think about, a lot of people say, I want balance, I want balance, I want balance. Well, that's great. But if you think about a scale, if there's a scale, it's balanced on each side, which means nothing's going in either direction. So if you have a goal, you're going to have to make sacrifices in other areas in order to make headway towards that goal. And it doesn't have to be like that forever, but it's like for me,
Right.
I've got this very specific goal and I'm going to dial in until I get there. Once I hit that goal, it's like, okay, I'm going to take my foot off the gas just a little bit and I can relax some. So it all literally just comes down to like what the person's specific goals are. And it's in learning how to create this lifestyle around it. Like I said, you're not going to be dialed in all the time. Um, you're going to have ebbs and flows in your journey, and you're going to have times where you're a little bit tighter on your nutrition than and then times where you're maybe not. Like, for instance, it's December right now. So like, yes, I'm still logging my food. I'm still tracking my food, but like it's Christmas time. I'm not beating myself up if I'm not perfect because
Right.
it's, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
kind of
And
depends
then,
on the person's goal.
yeah. And, going back to lifestyle and making choices, I find a lot of people struggle when it comes to the busy mom life, right? And you're
Mhm.
making food for your kids, you're going out, they've got sports. Now they've got a baseball game or a softball game, and so
Yep.
do you have any good tips or tricks that you might give a busy mom who's taking their kids from point A to point B and,
Yeah.
making food here, making food there? They can jump on. They can give
He's
their advice too.
he's half naked. Go. Go.
Maybe not.
Go on.
That'll get me
Um
canceled on my first couple episodes.
um, as a busy mom, here's the deal. After I had Hayden, I, I will give it to that child. He destroyed my body. Like I gained like 60 pounds with him. It was the worst pregnancy and I was just in a really, really, really bad spot after I had him. And not to mention, so I've got this newborn, I've got two small kids, everybody's under the age of 5 at home. And I'm like, this is the worst version of myself I've ever been after I had him. And I kind of had this like epiphany, like this isn't me. Like it wasn't my identity. This is not me. I was not feeling like myself. And I had this like drive that I was like, I have to get as far away from this version of myself as I possibly can. And I will do whatever it takes to get there. So I started adopting this mindset of like, I just have to show up every single day. And as long as I show up and give 100% of what I have to give, I can't not move forward. It's going to be more than nothing. So on days that maybe he didn't sleep, whatever, I literally only had 30% to give. But if I gave all of that 30%, then guess what? I gave 100%. And that is the mindset that I have adopted. I started that back after I had him and I use it to this day. So I still tell my mamas that I work with, it's like, even if life is chaotic, even if, things are out of control, whatever, you can always do something. And on top of that, everything in life is figure outable. Like it's one of my favorite quotes. I remind myself always, if you feel like I don't know how I'm supposed to do this, I don't know how I'm supposed to stay on track and get kids wherever they want to go and this and that, everything is figure outable. So if you literally didn't have another choice, how would you figure out in this moment how to get keep your meals on track and get your kids to their baseball games and whatever? Okay, I would probably plan ahead and make some food, pack a cooler and take it with me. The
Yeah.
thing is, most people know what to do. It's just a
Right.
matter of actually taking action and doing it. So, there's no rules. It's like I remember being like, well, nobody else does that. Like who would pack a cooler and take it, to their kid's basketball game? Who cares? Who gives a shit? Like just
Yeah.
it's your goals, it's your life. So like you have to stop caring about what you think everybody else is thinking about you and you got to just do what's best for you. Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day that's all it is. It's your life. You got to do what's best for you because especially as a mom, the biggest thing I this is the biggest thing that I preach and it's the most cliche like thing that I could say is but you cannot pour from an empty cup. So if you are literally running yourself into the ground because you're trying to take care of everybody else, you're not going to have anything to give. So you're going to end up being this like run down, watered down version of yourself as a mom, as a friend, as a wife, as whatever. And it's like, what good is that? And so I know that as a mom, like I always want to give my kids the best of everything. I think all moms probably do. Why would that not include being the best version of yourself? You know what I mean? So this is why it's so important. I always tell, like, I think it's more important for moms than anybody else to take care of yourself. And so you have to be selfish in that way in order to be selfless. And I think it's hard. It's a hard concept for a lot of moms to get because they have this feeling of guilt all the time. Mom guilt is totally real because it's like,
Oh
they
yeah.
need me this and that. Like, how am I supposed to go spend an hour at the gym? How am I supposed to go to class? Like, I'm depriving my kids of. No, you're not. Like
Yeah.
how can you spending time on yourself, you going and throwing around some barbells at a gym is going to be what gets your headspace right so that you can be a good ass mom the rest of the day. You have to do that, and whatever that
Right.
looks like for you. They could be literally, Liz and I talk about it all the time on our podcast. It's like, it could be doing a morning routine of like getting up, getting your workout in, having that's what it is for me, getting my coffee in silence, reading some self-development books, like just getting myself right before I take on the day. And then your time is not yours anymore, but you have to be able to prioritize it for yourself. Um, and the other thing is nobody's going to make that happen for you. You have to take ownership and you have to step up and do it for yourself. Like you have to become the hero of your own story
I
because
agree.
nobody's going to do it for you. You can wait around forever. You can wait for your life to change. It's never going to change until
Yeah.
you actually make those changes and take action.
Yeah. I find I have a lot of discussions with people, and a lot of it leads back to mindset. A lot of it,
Mhm.
and you're just
Oh,
constantly
yeah.
talking about mindset. And it's like, well, like, where are we at? It's not the chicken, it's not the fettuccine, it's not, it's the mindset. Like, where are you wanting to go? Like, what's your goals? What
Yeah.
are you wanting to do? I'm in the middle of the 75 hard right now, and people are like, "How's it going?" Right? Like, it's fine. It's fine.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
it's just you
Mindset is
sit down and you
everything.
make, and you just sit down, and it teaches you that you just need to make decisions in certain moments. And if you sit down and you're out with some friends, then you sit down and you look, okay, I can have this and I can't have this, and it just teaches you to make decisions based on what your goals are.
For sure.
And a lot of it just comes down to mindset. And I feel a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, you know,
Oh,
it
yeah.
does. It comes down to mindset and like how you view what you're doing in life and how you view, what your goals are, how you view being a mom, right? It's like people feel guilty a lot going to the gym, or, I got to take my kids here. I'm not going to be able to make it. Right. And so, do you find yourself just talking to a lot of people and just saying, like, it's okay? Like, it's fine.
Like,
Like, go to the gym. It's
yeah, oh
fine.
yeah. Like, and the thing about when people, it's kind of funny because when people sign up to work with me, they think that they're just like, I just want to lose some weight. I want to like start tracking my
Right.
macros. They have no idea that they're about to get like a complete overhaul of their whole life,
Yeah.
because that's so much of what I teach is mindset. Like when people come in, this is the thing: is there's a difference between just wanting to come in, check the boxes, and lose 20 pounds. But it's like because let's say you come in and do that. Okay, I followed the list. I did everything that I needed to do. I lost some weight. Awesome. Until you actually change the way that you approach life, your perspective on everything, none of that will ever stick. You will go back to your old habits. You will go back to the way that you've always been unless you truly make that change with your mindset. And I will tell you one thing is, and this is what, again, a lot of what I teach my clients is like our minds, man, our minds they work. Okay. They go to work for us or against us. And it just depends on what you're using it for. Okay. So let's take this example. Your mind has something called the reticular activating system. So if you've ever noticed, like when you buy a new car, like for instance, this past year I got a blue Expedition. And then all of a sudden I'm driving down the road and there's Expeditions everywhere. And I'm like, did everybody buy an Expedition at the same time I did? Like, why am I
Yeah.
noticing all of the same car? And it's because when that is front of mind for you, your brain will go to work to prove and notice everything in its sight that's exactly like that. So if you are focusing on all of the negative things in your life, if you're like, this isn't going to work for me, my kids aren't letting me work out, blah, 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 your mind will go to work to continue to find the things that are not working for you. Okay. So it can
Agreed.
definitely cause damage, but in the same breath, you can literally flip your perspective and be like, okay, am I looking for excuses? Because you will find them anywhere you look. If you want to look for an excuse, you will find one. But you can
Absolutely.
also look for opportunity and your mind will go to work to find everything that's an opportunity for you. So instead of being like, oh, I want to go to the gym, but my kids are being so bad, this and that. Like, I don't know, I'm not going to make it. No, I'm going to go to the gym and they're going to figure it out and I'm going to be a better mom. And then you're going to start to notice like all of these other things are going to start to fall into place for you that's going to be in line with that. Like if you want an excuse, you will find it. But if you want an opportunity, you'll find that too. So again, it all
Yeah.
comes back to just ownership and like it's all completely in your control. And that's what so
Absolutely.
many people like don't realize how much is actually in their control until they decide that there's just no other options. You got to take quitting off the table and just realize there's no other option. I have to become this best version of myself. And when you set your eyes on that path, again, your brain will find everything to support that and help you become the best version of yourself.
Absolutely. Do you find when people travel, they're texting you like, "Hey, what do I do? Here's my hotel gym."
Yeah,
Or do people
sometimes.
fall off the wagon when they, I find that that's where, people start falling off the wagon is they might travel for 4 or 5 days on business trips,
Mhm.
right? And then all of a sudden, they're like, "Well, I wasn't able to get it in for a few days." And, it comes back to that mindset, you know, how bad
Yep.
do you want it? What's the gym have? Can you do burpees in the hotel room?
Well, and
That
the
type
thing
of
is,
thing.
and I think that honestly, I think doing 75 hard is the best way to prove that to yourself. Because I mean, you said
Yeah,
you're halfway into it right now. It's like every other
yeah.
excuse that you've ever
50
had of
days
like
or something.
that you have left.
No, 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 I might have, like, 20 days, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I'm, like,
Well, it's
55
like
days into it.
I think that was when that first opened my eyes to that concept is like all of those other times that I felt like I couldn't work out or didn't have time or whatever, all of a sudden you're on 75 hard and you've got to get in and get these 2 workouts in a day. You figure out the time. You figure out how to make it
Oh,
happen.
yeah,
So it's like being able to prove that like literally everything is figure outable. It's just a matter of if you want to or not. Even if you're
right.
doing a 1 a.m. outdoor workout, which I've done so many freaking
It's
times,
terrible, yeah,
it's terrible, but it's like
yeah,
there is an option. It's just a matter of whether or not you decide to take action on it or not. So again, it always comes back to yourself. And so this whole journey, everything in life, if you can learn how to take ownership, you you can do anything that you want.
yeah,
And there's so many people that play the victim and they're like, I can't because X, Y, and Z, and they put blame outside of themselves. And it's like, you're never going to get anywhere if you continue to play the victim. You're not a victim. Nobody's a victim.
no, I like that. So what's Jenna's goals look like for 2025?
Oh, man.
What do your goals look like?
Well, I've been growing my business for the last couple of years. And
Mhm.
honestly, I've been really thinking about like my 2025 goals, and I don't know that I have anything like new. It's going to be just more of like dialing in harder and continuing to grow my business, I'd like to come out with a couple more workout programs this year. Um, I've got some other business goals that I have. And I don't know.
Have you
I'm
ever
trying to
heard of have you ever heard of the term "misogi"?
No.
Like, what a misogi is?
No, what is
You
that?
should set one. So a misogi is it's like one big defining moment of every year. And
Oh,
so, each year, if you look back, there's probably, each year that you had a kid, that's probably like a big defining moment, and so
yeah.
you can go back through the years and you can say, oh, I started a podcast. And what year did you start a podcast?
It was
This year?
last year. It was last year,
Okay. So like
2023.
last year, like I started a podcast. This year I had, my first kid, right? And then some people may, climb Mount Everest, right? And so then at the beginning of the year, everyone tries to maybe pick one thing that's going to define their year, but it
Mhm.
also helps people set goals around, like, let's say you want to climb Mount Everest in August. Well, in
Yeah.
order to do that, you have to plan ahead your entire year and what your
Yeah.
training looks like and what the protocols look like, in order to reach that goal. And so it's just like a Japanese ritual called a misogi. And so then, at the beginning of the year, I like to just say, what's my one thing that I'm going to do, that's going to, I haven't figured it out for next year, but I like
Yeah.
to ask people, like what's next year look like? What's the one big thing you're going to do next year?
Yeah.
And
I
a lot
like
of
that.
people
I've never
just,
heard of that.
yeah. And so a lot of people just, it could be the year that they lost 50 pounds. It could be, you know, the
For
year
sure.
that they had their first kid or whatever it is. But a lot of people just, they go day by day and they don't think of just like, what, this year was a good year. I accomplished this, right? Or I
Mhm.
started a podcast and that, and I did 40 episodes or whatever it is, right?
Yeah,
And so then
sure.
they're like, this year was, it was awesome because I accomplished this one big thing. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Um, what's your podcast called? Now that we'll
It's
end
called
it on that, and
sorry.
I love it. This is the best way to end the podcast. Busy
She's
mom.
interrupting. My
What's up,
podcast
dude?
it's called When Mamas Rise Up. Hey,
Okay.
come on. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. It's called When Mamas Rise Up. I started this podcast with my best friend last year. She and I, we met through First Form, and we both do the same thing. We're both nutrition coaches, and we're both moms. And we just like, once we met on a Zoom call actually. And she lives in Colorado, and we just like really hit it off immediately. It was one of those friendships that like we started talking, and it was like we'd known each other for years and years. And so um, we got really close, and we found ourselves, we would talk on the phone all the time, and we would have these like really in-depth conversations just about clients and different things that people struggle with. And I mean, we would talk for so long about all these things. And one day we were like, we should record this. Like, why are we not like talking about this to people in a broader audience? So we set a goal to start a podcast. We talked about it in like March, and we were like, okay, it would be cool to start a podcast. We like put it on a vision board, you know? And
Yeah.
then one day it was like, what are we waiting on? Like, let's just freaking do it. Like, let's just
Yeah, just
Google
click
how to
record.
start a
Let's go.
podcast and just do it. So we released our first episode, and we've been growing ever since. So yeah, it's been really fun. So we talk about all things. It's not just for moms. We call it When Mamas Rise Up because it's relevant to us rising up into the best version of ourselves as moms. But we talk about all things like we talk a lot about mindset. We talk a lot about nutrition, fitness, um, just everything, you know?
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it's been really fun. So, um, we usually release one episode a week. We try to, but
That's awesome.
yeah.
How many have you done so far?
Gosh, I mean, if we've done one a week for the last year and a half, so 70, 80 episodes, maybe
Oh, that's
something like
awesome.
that. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
we just can like, and that's another thing for 2025 is like, we want to continue to grow that, continue to release episodes there. Cause it's been really cool being able to, you know, like I have a ton of clients, but I can only reach so many people with my capacity. And she's the same way. And it's like, we want to find a way to reach a broader audience of people and help just give value, you know, because I think for the longest time, I struggled with what the heck to do. Like, I didn't know how to eat. I didn't know what was right or wrong. And there were no resources available. And I felt like if I wanted help with nutrition, it was hundreds of dollars. And it was like, I was flat broke. I didn't have that. And so I'm like, if we can get people just basic information on just how to live better, you know, like
Yeah.
eat your protein, you know, like move
Right.
your body, take care of yourself, take care of your mind, like all of these things. It's, you know, I wish that I would have had this 10 years ago for myself, you know, so that's what we're trying to do is just provide that for people who may be in that same spot and struggling, just needing direction, just wanting to live better, wanting to feel better, you know, and maybe don't want to settle. I think that's a big thing is that people just need to realize, and I did this for a long time. I thought that I just needed to settle because that was just life. I had a very fixed mindset of like, well, this is just like this is the cards that I was dealt, and other people are successful and I'm not. And this is just how it is, until I finally realized somebody challenged me on that thinking and was like, who told you
Yeah.
that? Like, why? And I was like, what do you mean why? Like, this is just how it is. And they're like, why? And
Right.
that's when I started being like, they're right. Why? And so I realized that every limiting belief that I had on my life, I put there for no reason, just because of maybe something that happened in the past or whatever, but your past doesn't have to equal your future. You know, so
Yeah.
like whatever your limiting beliefs are, you are the only one who has the power to literally take them away. And once you do that, it's like, holy crap, the sky is the limit. You can do
I love
anything.
it. Yeah. I
So
love it. Well, it's been awesome having you on. It's nice to actually chit chat with you,
I
not
know
just
it's
social
fun.
media friends, right?
I
So,
know.
yeah, I don't know how to end these podcasts, but it's always like, hey, it's been great having you on.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I'll send people over to your podcast and maybe they can give a listen. So
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
appreciate you
I'll
having you on.
always share yours too. So I appreciate you, and this
Yeah.
was fun. So
Yeah,
we'll do it again
absolutely.
sometime.
We'll talk soon.
All right.
All right. See
All
ya.
right. Bye.